Class, so the next concept we're going to learn about is the role that blood vessels play in our circulatory system, and we're going to talk about the circulatory pathway. So where the blood goes and why. So we are going to take a look at the role of the heart as the pump of our circulatory system, and the blood vessels. So the heart is a muscular organ. It's a great big muscle that is responsible for pumping blood around your body. So every time your heart beats, it's a big muscle that contracts and it holds blood inside of it, and every time it beats, right, the blood gets pushed out of it, and that pushes the blood around your circulatory system. Meanwhile, your blood vessels act as pathways that your blood travels through. So blood vessels are sort of the blood highway or the blood subway system, right? It's going to deliver your blood to certain areas, and then your blood is going to exchange nutrients and other things in those areas. So circulation is the process of moving your blood around your body. Now, we have two main pathways as a part of our circulation. Okay, we have the pulmonary circuit, and that's the circuit that goes between our heart and our lungs. It's a very important circuit because so you can see the picture below, right? We have your heart here in the middle, and the right side of the heart is filling with blood that comes from our body. And you can see that one side of the heart is blue, okay? And according to the diagram, this is oxygen poor, carbon dioxide rich blood. So basically your body's cells have taken all of the oxygen out of the blood and they filled it with carbon dioxide, right? And the reason why that happens is because your cells constantly need to be doing the cellular respiration to provide themselves with energy to do the things that cells do, right? So they suck all of the oxygen out of your blood, and they do the cellular respiration, and then a product of cellular respiration is carbon dioxide. So that's a waste product, right? It's something that your body doesn't need, so it needs to get rid of it, and the way it gets rid of it is it puts it into the blood, right? So the blood in the right side of your heart, and just a reminder, even though this is the left side, like if you put your hand up to that side of the screen, I know it's your left hand, but you gotta imagine that this is the heart of somebody who's facing you. So right, if you imagine somebody facing you, or if you have somebody at home, right, get them to face you, you'll see that where your left hand is, their right hand is, and where your right hand is, their left hand is, right? So it's flipped. So this is the right side of the heart with the blue. And your blood doesn't go blue, really this blue, in your body. But you may notice that if you get a cut, sometimes the blood rushes out really fast, and sometimes it kind of oozes out slowly. And when it rushes out fast, you'll notice that the blood is a brighter orangey red. And when it sort of trickles out slowly, it's sort of a dark, not purple, but closer to purple red. Right? And we talked about this during the blood lesson. When the blood has a lot of oxygen in it, it goes brighter red. And when it has less oxygen in it, it goes a duller, darker red, right? But we're going to describe that as blue so you can see it better in the diagram. So this blue blood needs to go to the lungs, right? Which is the pulmonary circuit. So pulmonary is a word that refers to the lungs, right? We have the pulmonary circuit, which is the pathway that goes to the lungs, and we have pulmonary arteries, those are blood vessels that go to the lungs, and pulmonary veins, those are blood vessels that come back from the lungs to the heart. And you'll see pulmonary used a lot in medical settings. Like you can have pulmonary edema, and that means that your lungs are filling with fluid, right? So edema means to basically to fill with fluid, and pulmonary means the lungs, right? So this is an important word to remember if you want to go into some sort of healthcare profession. So you have this pulmonary circuit, and the goal is we have low oxygen, high carbon dioxide blood, and you can see when we get to the lungs, it changes from blue to red. And this is not like this diagram, although it's a great diagram. I don't want you to think that all of your blood goes to your right lung and then goes from your right lung to your left lung. Like that's not how the blood system flows. But you are seeing that as it goes through the lungs, the blood changes from the blue to the red, right? And that is what does happen. So the blood lets all of its carbon dioxide out, and it brings in oxygen. And once it brings in oxygen, right, it oxidizes the iron in the hemoglobin, and then we have red blood again, right? And then after it has red blood, it doesn't go directly to the body, but it goes back to the heart, right? And the left side of the heart is going to pump it out to the entire body. That's called the systemic circuit, right? So the pulmonary circuit, low oxygen, high carbon dioxide blood, goes from the heart to the lungs, where carbon dioxide is removed and oxygen is added before traveling back to the heart. In the systemic circuit that starts on the left side of your heart, we have high oxygen, low carbon dioxide blood, right? Because that's what happened in the lungs. Now that's going to go from the heart all the way around to the body cells. These body cells need to do, and when I say body cells, I mean every cell in your body. So it goes to your head, it goes to your arms and legs, it goes to all of your internal organs because they're made up of cells. It even goes back to the lungs to give the lung cells oxygen. It goes to the heart to give the heart's muscle cells oxygen, right? It goes everywhere in your body. Okay? Obviously, the diagram is making these capillaries, these blood cells, much larger than they are, right? And you know they're inside of your body and not outside of your body, right? But they go everywhere inside of your body and drop off oxygen. And then your cells, which have been doing cellular respiration, right? They take in the oxygen to do more cellular respiration. They give off carbon dioxide because they've been doing cellular respiration. Okay, and now we have, again, the oxygen poor, carbon dioxide rich blood. It goes back to the heart, and then it does the pulmonary circuit again, right? So it's two separate loops that make up your circulation, okay? And they have names. So pulmonary circuit goes to the lungs, and you know that now because you know pulmonary means lungs. And systemic circuit goes from your heart to every other cell in your body. Now, your blood vessels, okay? Some of your blood vessels are arteries, some of your blood vessels are veins, and some of your blood vessels are capillaries, okay? Arteries take blood away from the heart, right? I like to remember that as arteries start with A and away starts with A, right? A for away, okay? So you can see, if we go back to the diagram, you can see in this diagram we have the pulmonary arteries, right? And you can see those are the blood vessels that go away from the heart towards the lungs, right? And we have also systemic arteries. We have the aorta up here, which is the biggest artery in your body coming directly out of your heart. And it's going to branch off into smaller blood vessels, and those are called systemic arteries. So this word systemic means the whole body, right? They're arteries that go around like your entire body. So you have major arteries in your body. including the carotid, which is the artery that goes up your neck to your brain, right? If you like to watch those Halloween scary monster movies, somebody gets cut across the neck and the blood spurts out, that's the carotid artery that was cut, right? Remember, if it's spurting out, is probably an artery that was cut, and if it's like oozing or trickling out, it's probably a vein. The aorta, which is the big one that comes out of your heart. The pulmonary one, which is the one that goes to your lungs. The renal artery is the artery that goes to your kidneys. The word renal means kidneys. The abdominal artery, which goes to the organs in your digestive system. The femoral artery, which goes to your legs. And small arteries, right? So the one that comes directly out of your heart is the biggest artery. And then the arteries will get smaller and smaller as they branch off until they become capillaries. So the really small arteries are called arterioles, right? So you can see the word that looks like artery here, and then the OLES means that they're small. Then you have veins. Veins take blood toward the heart. So we have in this diagram, we have our pulmonary veins, which come back from the lungs towards the heart. We have our systemic veins that take blood from all of the body cells back to the heart. And we have the two big ones that go into the heart. Just like the big one, the big artery that comes out of the heart, it has a special name, aorta. The big arteries that go directly into the heart, they have special names as well. They're called vena cava or vena cavae. And you have two. You have one that's closer to your head called the superior vena cava or vena cavae, and the one that comes from the bottom of your body. So like basically your abdomen, your legs, etc. And that's called the inferior. So superior means above in biology, and inferior means below. So you also have your jugular. That's the one in your neck. You know, if you like vampire movies, that's the one the vampires bite, right? And it makes sense because when the vampires bite people, the blood doesn't spray out everywhere because they're not biting an artery, they're biting a vein. So the blood like oozes out. It goes more slowly. We talked about the superior, inferior vena cava. The pulmonary vein comes back from your lungs. The renal vein comes back from your kidneys. The femoral vein comes back from your legs, and it's a long distance from your legs to your heart. So that's basically one of the longer ones. Right, arteries you don't want to nick. You don't want to cut them. They're high pressure. The blood will spray out. Veins, the blood usually comes out a little bit slower. So definitely don't nick a major artery, but also try not to nick a major vein as well. They carry a lot of blood. And then in between them, we have these really small blood vessels called capillaries, and they connect arteries and veins, and basically everywhere you see a capillary, your blood is exchanging something with the cells around it. So you see capillaries in two main places in the body. One is in the lungs, and this is where they're exchanging carbon dioxide for oxygen. And then in the systemic circuit, you'll see basically all of the capillaries around all of the cells in your body, right? So capillaries are basically everywhere in your body. You have the big blood vessels that are sort of the main pathway, but the pathway will branch and go to, it will find every cell in your body, because every cell in your body needs carbon dioxide, needs oxygen and needs to get rid of carbon dioxide. And your body cells will also need other things like nutrients, amino acids, glucose, fats, right? So all of that stuff travels in your blood, and capillaries are basically where they trade things with cells. Here you can see where in the body all of these important arteries and veins are, right? So we have the carotid and the jugular, carotid artery, jugular vein going to the head, right? You have, coming out of the heart, you have the aorta, which is the major artery, and going into the heart, you have the superior and inferior vena cava. Going to the lungs, you have the pulmonary arteries. Coming back from the lungs, you have the pulmonary vein. Going to the kidney, you have the renal artery. Going from the kidney, you have the renal vein. Right? These are important. So you'll notice your kidneys have their own artery and vein, and that's because the kidney basically filters the blood, right? So you need a lot of blood to go through there. It's also why kidneys are so important, right? If you're watching Grey's Anatomy or another medical show at home, if they're screaming that the patient is in renal failure, or usually the patients who have kidney problems, they're goners, right? Like, don't get attached to them. They're not going to make it through the episode because the kidneys are so important to filter and maintain the quality of your blood that if they stop working, you die pretty quickly. So that's one of the reasons why they have their own blood supply, right? They're there to filter the blood. You have your abdominal aorta, right? This one's called an aorta, not an artery, which just means it's like fairly big. You can see where it's pointing to, right? This is a very big blood vessel because it has to provide nutrients and oxygen to all of your internal organs. And then you don't see an abdominal vein, right? Which is very interesting. That's basically you could call the inferior vena cava your abdominal vein, right? But we called it something else instead, so it is what it is. And you have your femoral artery that carries blood down your leg, and your femoral vein that carries it up your leg back to your heart. Okay, the next topic that we're going to take a look at is how the structure of blood vessels help them to do their function, right? And that, again, an important concept in biology, right? Structure and function are always linked, okay? So we have arteries, veins, and capillaries. And you'll notice that arteries and veins are much wider and thicker than capillaries. But even there are some differences between arteries and veins. So arteries and veins, you'll notice that both of them have 3 layers of tissue making the walls of the arteries, right? So inside we have this thin inner lining tissue, right? Lining tissue is called epithelial tissue, right? Any sort of skin tissue or lining tissue inside and outside of your body is called epithelial tissue, right? And its job is just to maintain a barrier between the tube and the blood. And then the second layer that you can see here is a layer of muscle tissue. And you'll notice that even though the lining tissue looks very similar between the artery and the vein, you can see that the artery has a thicker layer of muscle than the vein. And that's because, remember, the arteries take the blood away from the heart, right? So the blood coming from the heart, right? The heart is where the pumping comes from. It's where the squeezing comes from. So that blood is under a lot of pressure, right? So it's important that the blood vessels near the heart that are receiving this high pressure blood are able to withstand the pressure, right? So this muscle does 2 things. It's strong, right? And it's able to resist the force of the pumping blood. And also, the muscle tissue layer makes it stretchy, right? So if the pressure becomes more, right, it can stretch out and allow a larger volume of blood to go through the arteries. And then for arteries and veins, they have this outer layer of connective tissue to link blood vessels with each other. So you'll notice that's in arteries, it's in small arteries, arterioles, it's in capillaries, it's in veins, right? So that layer of connective tissue is always there. But arteries and veins have a muscle layer and a lining layer. So let's just take a look at arteries, okay? Why do they have the structure that they have? So arteries receive blood from the heart at high pressure. This pressure increases and decreases each time the heart pumps. So arteries have to be able to carry high pressure blood and low pressure blood. So they are made of muscle tissue that can stretch in response to changing pressure. And they're thick so that they're strong enough to withstand the force of this pressure, right? So their structure with the muscle layer, the thick muscle layer, and the thickness overall helps them be better able to carry high pressure blood. And then let's go to veins, okay? Veins have the opposite situation that arteries have. So veins receive blood from the capillaries at very low pressure, okay? But they have a hard job. They have to return this blood to your heart without a pump, right? So they have some special structure, okay? Number one, so you'll notice that the veins don't have a lot of muscle, right? So the veins can't pump the blood up themselves. What they need to do is they need to use the skeletal muscle around them, right, to help push the blood up. So if you think about your legs, right, legs are one of the areas that get poorer circulation as you age. You'll notice that the older people in your life often have edema in their feet and ankles. And the reason why they have edema, so edema is pooling fluid, right? It's fluid that is sort of stuck at a part of your body. The reason why they have all of this fluid there is they have trouble pushing the blood back up to their heart. And two reasons for this. Number one, the skeletal muscles, as you age, right, they get weaker because, you know, you're not doing as much, and muscle tone in general, like your ability to make muscle, decreases as you age. Some of that's due to changes in your hormones, right? So this ability to use your skeletal muscles will decrease as you become elderly, right? So that's one reason why old people get edema in their feet and legs, right? So the decreasing muscle tone. And of course, you can improve your circulation when you're elderly by maintaining your exercise routine as you age, right? And then these problems, you can put them off a little bit longer. Also, veins have valves, right? This is a valve. And what a valve is like, it's like a one-way door. So when blood is pushed into this door, it will open and allow the blood through. But then once the blood has stopped flowing through, this valve will close behind it, right? And will prevent the blood from going backwards. And as you can imagine, these also break down as you age, these valves, right? So some people have these varicose veins, these spider veins in their legs as they age. And besides the skeletal muscles, one of the problems is that these valves break and are not repaired, and then you have blood flowing backwards, right? And that's how they get edema. Okay. Oh, and capillaries. I almost went on without talking about capillaries. So capillaries, you have capillaries surrounding all of the cells in your body. Anywhere you have cells, you have capillaries feeding them nutrients, right? So how are capillaries especially structured to be better at being able to exchange nutrients and wastes with cells? Okay, so oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients, and other dissolved substances are exchanged between the blood in the capillaries and the body cells. So the only time things get exchanged is through these capillaries. To enable the exchange, the capillaries have walls that are only one cell thick, right? So you can see these tubes are a lot thinner than the arteries and the veins, right? And the reason is because it's harder to transport substances through many cells. So it's only one cell thick in order to be able to exchange nutrients and waste with lung cells, right, in the pulmonary circuit, and body cells in the systemic circuit. And they occur in great numbers. So you can see, right, you have one artery, you have one vein, you have quite a few capillaries, right? So you'll always have more capillaries than arteries and veins. They're the most numerous blood vessel. Number one, because they're so tiny, you need more of them to move the same volume of blood as would be in an artery or a vein. And number two, they have to visit so many cells to deliver them nutrients. So that's why there's so many of them and they're so tiny. So here you have a bunch of self-check homework about blood vessels, right? You're going to look at the pictures. You're going to try to answer the questions so you can practice your learning. I'll post the answers to these. And then we have some more concepts. Next, on to the heart.